Brothers and sisters, we made it. We're back. So let's get right to the nitty grit. You know, uh, Putin and friends doing the most. My man's Abraham Raisi was failed in a helicopter crash. We're gonna re-examine some information real quick, and then we're gonna talk about how anything really goes over there right now for Rick. And I'm not gonna say the new eye in Rick is India, but we're gonna place hold India there for right now until we see what happens in Iran. But for for argument's sake, all three of these nations are all nuclear powered. So I'm not talking about hypothetical nothing. Now let's go ahead and get right into this real quick. We're gonna do the death of the Iranian hardliner Ebrahim Raisi. We're gonna bust this down real quick. View this tab. Okay, let me blow the screen up just a little bit. All right. Let me view that again. Okay, that's good. All right. So, and this is May 24th. This is yesterday, 2024, by Mohammed Ayatollah Ayatollah Tabar. At the funeral of for Raisi and the others killed in the helicopter crash. The sudden death of Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash on May 19th marked a momentous day for the Islamic Republic. His presidency ushered in a new era for his country, characterized by increased militarization abroad and growing tumult at home. Not since the 1979 revolution had Iran's political system faced such a fast-paced transformation. Externally, the country surprised the world with its military capabilities and its willingness to deploy them. Internally, Iran grappled with rising secularization, putting society at odds with the government. These shifts meant that the Iran that exists today is very different from the one that existed when Raisi came to power just 3 years ago. Without Raisi, it may seem like Iran is headed for a period of great turbulence. Before his ascent, Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, spent 30 years in near constant conflict with Iran's presidents, sparring over what path the country should take at home and abroad. But Raisi adopted Khamenei's preferred Middle East first approach to foreign policy, expanding Iran's regional influence and improving relations with its neighbors, including its rival Saudi Arabia. He made sure that Iran's presidential bureaucracy synced up with the supreme leaders. He deepened ties with China and Russia and vastly expanded his country's nuclear program. Raisi was loyal to Khomeini, that he was widely viewed as his heir apparent. Yet it is unlikely that Raisi's death will cause much tumult in Tehran. In fact, it is unlikely to prompt much change at all. Despite popular discontent and expanding crisis of legitimacy, Iran's powerful ruling class remains steadfast in its commitment to Raisi and Khamenei's strategy. Iranian elites will ensure that the presidency stays in the hands of a loyal establishment conservative. They will keep the country's policy steady. They will be palace intrigue as the country gears up for a snap election and ambitious politicians launch their candidacies to succeed Raisi. But Iran's next president will will almost certainly be just like the last one. And nationwide grief of Raisi's death will ensure that winning candidate has a smooth transition. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. This is all happening, right? Now, I got another article I have to show y'all. You know what I'm saying? This article right here And I'm gonna come right back to this one. Stop share. And I'll go right back. They don't have a smooth way to transition between the things. So again, yeah. Okay. Okay. You blow that out. Uh, Maybe a little bit. Netanyahu says Israel will decide how to respond as Iran warns against retaliation. Now, if you guys don't remember, April 17th, 2024, but I forget exactly what day that was on. But still, I want y'all to understand this. Within a month of Iran attacking Israel outright, this man's helicopter goes down. And this is now let's read it. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel would decide whether and how to respond to Iran's major air assault earlier this week, brushing off calls for restraint from close allies. Israel has vowed to respond to Iran's unprecedented attack, leaving the region bracing for further escalation after months of fighting in Gaza. Israel allies have been urging Israel to hold back on any response to the attack that could spiral. The diplomatic pressure came as Iran's president warned that even the tiniest invasion of its territory would bring a massive and harsh response. Okay, did y'all read that part? The tiniest invasion of its territories would bring a massive and harsh response. Stop right there. Stop right there. Stop sharing. Other tab. Share that one back again. Now, the reason why that's so important is because invasion. Okay. If you're talking about putting troops on the ground or even sending a drone or whatever, okay. But what if, I'm just saying, what if there's inside people already, or there's people there who can sabotage something and there's no need for an invasion? I just sabotage the actual instruments that you are using. Then what? And that's not to say that that that's not to say that they even believe there was any like foul play. But the idea that this happened right after they did that is like not a coincidence. Thick and thin. Ricey's rise to power began in the 1980s. Then a prosecutor and judge, he made a name for himself by having thousands of leftist prisoners executed. A student of Khomeini's jurisprudence classes, he eventually advanced to become Iran's attorney general, taking up the post in 2014. He next presided over a multi-billion-dollar religious foundation in the holy city of Mashhad before being tapped in 2019 to head the judiciary. Raisi ran to become Iran's president in 2017, but lost to the incumbent Hassan Rouhani. His defeat in that contest also turned into a defeat for Khomeini. Although the supreme leader controls key institutions, including military forces, and sets Tehran's overall policies, Iran's presidents control a vast bureaucracy and a budget that gives them many levers to shape, challenge, delay, or sabotage Khomeini's programs. Not the sabotage. Iran's presidents also derive some legitimacy from being elected directly, unlike the supreme leader, Rouhani. Excuse me. Unlike the supreme leader, Rouhani, for example, used his power to chart a course far more moderate than that preferred by committee, including pursuing a nuclear deal with the United States during his first term. See, and this is how they ended up in that bullshit in the first place. This is how all that happened. This is why committee was upset because they ended up sanctioned because of all that. Had they just stayed back, they'd have been cool. If I don't enter into a deal with you and you can't say I'm rig nigging, there's no need for you to sanction me. But the moment you feel like I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do, you can say whatever you want to say. Now, let's just say right here. As a result, in the lead up of the 2021 election, committee maneuvered to ensure that RIC would win. Seizing on the collapse of the nuclear agreement, which was precipitated by the Trump's administration withdrawal from the deal in 2018, the Supreme Leader had Iran's Guardian Council disqualify all other serious contenders. The result was a contest and a carefully managed coronation. With committee's blessing, Raisi won with 62% of the vote and the lowest voter turnout in the Islamic Republic's history. You let somebody run who's just going to bow down to Trump. Right on? Those leftists that were killed off. You guys have to understand. These are so if you don't have a problem with people telling your children that there's no gender, that they can be a man if they was born a little girl, and that they can be a woman if they was born a little boy. If you have no issue with that, right? Then you have an issue with those leftists being killed off because those are the same people who bring those same people are the same ones that have brought those same kind of problems here. And I'm not saying that they brought those issues here per se, but they most definitely uh 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 they promote it. They promote it because they're blackmailed into it because people will say, well, you gave in to this and this is against your faith and you let this go, so why won't you let this go? And before they know it, they're not even who they say they really are. They're not even a husk of their former self. There's no presence of what used to be, right? And so when you have these situations where they're like, oh, low voter turnout. Okay, it wasn't historic. Listen, they've had low voter turnouts here in America. You've had people win votes by margins in a lot of cases for major stuff because they couldn't get voters to turn out. What's the point? It's like, I'm just trying to understand how people are trying to talk about voter turnout in a country that realistically is a democracy in the name of having someone who can, in a token sense, put up resistance. Because, for anybody to try to really sabotage the actual supreme leader, I'm sure they're going to get you out of there. You can only get so far outside of things. And I'm sure he consulted my man's Rouhani. I'm sure he consulted with the supreme leader. And the supreme leader was like, I don't want you to do it. But he's like, if you do it and it blows up, then you know what I mean? We're gonna suspend everybody. I'm sure there was conversations, like there was like actual conversations. If you do this and it works, good. We have nothing to say. But if it fails on us and it blows up on us, right on, we're looking at you crazy. So you have to understand rightfully so, rightfully so, they got rid of all competition. Anything goes is what I'm talking about, right? Okay. Israel, not saying rightfully so, but since anything goes, can you dig it? Since anything goes, what happened to Ibrahim Raisi was more than understandable. You could even say predictable. And I wouldn't be in a much of a position to argue with you, because why is a president traveling in a helicopter and not a private jet? Now, you could blame all the sanctions, which is what they did in Iran. They blamed the sanctions for the reason why he was in a rinky-dink helicopter and why he died in the first place. This is deep, but we'll get back to that in a second. We're gonna read a little bit more, and then we're gonna come back to all that. The Trump administration had imposed crippling sanctions in 2019. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration tried to leverage those sanctions to reach what Biden called a longer, better deal. But Raisi, unlike his predecessors, showed little interest in talks. Why would I show interest in talks if there's no good faith? In bad faith, you're trying to leverage. Ain't that about a bitch? Whoever's writing this clearly is a dude who wants there to be all chaos and crazy shit going on over there where he's from. You know these niggas are part of a death cult. You know that's what they say. I mean, like, listen, they say that about Christians and all that stuff, but you know they really say that about Islam. That Islam is a giant death cult. Now, I don't prescribe to that, but I know a lot of people who do. The same way people prescribe to Christianity being a death cult. Where we at? Instead, he shifted Iran's foreign policy from a westward looking approach aimed at removing U.S. sanctions, what committee derisively termed a begging foreign policy, to a more Middle Eastern and Asian focused strategy aimed at neutralizing them. This policy aligned with the vision that Iran's supreme leader had been advocating for decades. It aligned with the vision that Iran's supreme leader had been advocating for decades. So, as opposed to trying to get along with the West, just focus on the people here and have super strong relations with the people here. That's it. The Iranian foreign ministry, for example, has traditionally been at odds with the supreme leader's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, which prioritizes supporting Iran's extensive network of non-state proxies such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. But Raisi tapped Hussein Amir Abdul Abdulhain Abdullinian Abdullahian, there we go, a diplomat close to senior corps officials, to lead the ministry. Amir Abd Amir, oh my goodness, Abdullahian died in the helicopter with Raisi. I'm just gonna call him Amir, okay? That's too much. Once marginalized for being too tightly in sync with the IRGC, Amir Amir set about making sure that his ministry acted in tandem with the Corps. He promoted other diplomats with ties to the IRGC and provided more support for Iran's allied forces throughout the region. The result of this realignment was an assertive foreign policy. The IRGC, for example, was once constrained by the foreign ministry that the head of the Corps' aerospace division bitterly complained about efforts by Rouhani's officials to block missile tests. But when Raisi came to power, IRGC began testing at will. It also began launching more outright missile attacks, such as the barrage unleashed on Israel in April after Israel bombed Iran's embassy in Damascus. Under previous presidents, the Corps might not have responded with such force. Okay, stop right there. You guys are starting to get this, right? That the the situation that's being put together here, that that I want y'all to see, that I want y'all to realize, is they they made it to where these guys would seem hostile. So the US can practice missile tests. It's all good. They can do whatever they like, right? Follow what I'm saying, right? The all so-called benevolent US. I mean, it's just utter trash. It's garbage. However, though, who am I to say something if people don't mind? So it's like the US is the only country that we know that's ever nuked another nation, once again. Yet, how are they telling other? How can you have been the only one to do it and claim you did it to save more lives? What the fuck ever, dude? Just nonsense. Iran. Now listen. Now notice how they said that Iran uh, 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 um, a barrage was unleashed on Israel in April after, not before, not during, okay, after, so because Israel bombed Iran's embassy in Damascus. Now I want y'all to understand something. Iran peacocked by telling the US that they was gonna blitzkrieg Israel, and Israel had a chance to defend against all that. Israel didn't say, hey, we're going to use CIA or the Mossad or whatever agency to put a bug on this helicopter, and we're going to hit that bug when they're in a certain spot. We're just going to wait till the weather's fucked up. The bug was probably planted on that helicopter, soon after that attack, or it could have been there for years before. All I'm saying is they just waited for the conditions to be right. Oh, the weather was shitty. Bang, got you. They did the Kobe to him. So it's one of those things. And I just want for people to understand that it's not as simple. I mean, it is simple, but it's not as simple as they want you to think it is. There's good guys and there's bad guys. Because if you ever listen to Ibrahim Raisi, he said that the people that were punished were people that would carry out terroristic attacks. So a leftist and a conservative over there, the difference between them is the leftists are the dudes who are quick to suicide bomb some shit. The conservatives might do what they did, which is unleash a stupid barrage, right? Which, they're capable of doing. So I'm just saying, it seems to me that when Iran does respond to this, because they're saying they're just treating it like it ain't nothing. So when they do respond to it, it's gonna be something crazy. And it's not gonna be like what happened where Hamas pretty much shit the bed, because they should have stayed in Israel and never went back to Gaza. If they don't go back to Gaza, one could contend or argue that that Netanyahu would have never had any kind of grounds to go to Gaza. If you kill 10,000, 12,000 Hamas fighters, or you kill 7,000 of them, 6,000 of them, and thousands of more of them are still embedded in Israel, and you're still fighting them, months later, I think people are looking at that differently, you know. But, you know, and then it's just like, whatever you have to do to get those dudes up out of there, like people understand. But it's like that's not how it played out. It played out like these dudes are sucker butts and cowards and went back home to the crib and have virtually blood sacrificed, 50,000 people dead, because there's thousands, there's tens of thousands under that rubble. So 50,000 people dead. Fuck that 35 or 36,000 number. That's a bullshit ass number. 50,000 dead, another 100K or better wounded, right on. So we're talking almost 200K in casualties, right? And now we're talking millions of people's displaced, right? It's just mass chaos. People living in squalor conditions. People living, indigents or lesser than indigents. You know, it's it's man, it's crazy. Anyhow, Raisi, um, him getting murdered like this, and I do call it murder, um, because I'm gonna say that let's just say that the sanctions killed him, right? Let's just assume that there is no spies involved. I'm gonna play Angel's advocate, right? There are no spies involved. The helicopter's hella rinky dinky, all jalopy, uh, Negro League bus that's transporting the players around, type of shit that's liable to break down on you. Okay, cool. We have to examine it and say the sanctions still killed them. Yeah, he got murdered by a sanction. Right on. Right. The sanctions made it to where let's just argue that all the money that they could have possibly gotten, let's just say an incremental percentage of that could have gone to purchasing a private jet from Russia, right? Or having their own engineers to build a presidential jet. Right. Their own version of Air Force One. These are all viable questions. Maybe they just have land vehicles that are outfitted for all the rugged terrain. I don't know. It's just the not having the money you could claim killed them. So it's just as much the sanctions as it could be some nefarious activities from clandestine forces, units, operatives, operators, whatever you want to say, soldiers, assassins, mercenaries, you know, they're all the same when they operate to kill. It doesn't matter, what name they have. However, we're gonna tie this up. We're gonna tie this up. See, no, 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 no. We're gonna tie this up. 1 second, sharing this. Go to my man's Putin real quick. I like to mix it up so that way I keep it fresh in people's minds what's going on. So keep all that up your boy, you know. We're gonna talk about Putin and Modi in a second. Them having a conversation. They chopped it up because they like they had a sit down some years ago. But nah, you know what I mean? They had a sit down some years ago, but it be what it be. Okay. Now this is a president, Russian President Vladimir Putin. Uh they're saying he's been making veiled nuclear threats. He ain't making no threats. It's anything goes time. Now let's read this article. Putin starts tactical nuke drills near Ukraine. Can somebody, anybody, I mean, will a poor soul please depart unto mine even lesser? Do y'all remember when I said that they were trying to put tactical nukes on the border of Ukraine going to Russia? And I had said this before they had even popped off the war in Ukraine. Go back and listen to my RICs. Go back and listen to the RIC Big and Weak. I might have to mess around and find the link to it in this shit and put it up in. That anyway, the RIC's aging like fine wine. The RIC, the Hindi Chinny Rusi Bye Bye. You know what I'm saying? Or the Hindi Rusi Bye Bye. Listen, that- all this shit coming together. All this shit coming together. Russia on Tuesday. This is May 21, 2024. This is recent, y'all. Russia on Tuesday announced it has started tactical nuclear weapons exercises near Ukraine as Moscow again accused the West of being provocative. No doubt, because they blew up some of his fighter jets and shit. The Kremlin's plus nobody knows what happened to my man's Abraham Raisi. And it's better to have your people on guard and ready to attack than to fall victim, to just thinking that it's business as usual. Because uh my man's Raisi thought it was business as usual, and look what happened. Just look what happened. The Kremlin's Southern Military District troops are practicing combat training tasks of obtaining special ammunition for Exander operational tactical mission system, equipping launch vehicles with them, and covertly advancing them to a designated position area and for preparation for missile launches. Russia's defense ministry said in a statement Tuesday afternoon. Mm. Russian President Vladimir Putin has made veiled nuclear to the West for years since he began a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, leaving tens of thousands of people dead and towns and cities in ruins. Western allies have supported Ukraine military equipment to help Kyiv fend off Putin's aggression. Stop right there. Those tens of thousands of dead are men, soldiers, not women and children like in fucking Gaza, y'all. See, this is where writers of these articles try to you see how people play with words? They play loose and fast with them. Okay. Military personnel involved in the exercise equipping aviation weapons, excuse me, equipping aviation weapons with special warheads, including the Kinzhal aeroballistic hypersonic missiles, and flying into designated patrol areas, the Kremlin added. Unlike strategic nuclear weapons, which are designed to destroy entire cities, the goal of tactical nuclear weapons is to be used on the battlefield. Stop right there. Stop right there. Now, who's told y'all that the cartel has snuck in and smuggled in countless tactical nukes, and they have them all in the United States, which is why they need to be classified a terrorist organization? Come on, because of their ties with all these other groups who have ties with individuals that can get tactical nukes. Listen, I'm not fucking around. I know what I'm talking about. This is why these guys are so late on the draw. They're just late because they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand what's at stake. They're paid to so-called do the job, but they don't do the job. They're just figureheads. If you show up and do the job that everyone else is supposed to have been doing, could have done, and did not do, that means they're not doing the job. Now, they might be providing other functions that may seem to be vital, but these lesser functions or overlooked functions are the sort of functions that keep you in business. I'm telling you. You don't think some of these dudes have some of this shit? You don't think that they find some of this stuff all the time and they just keep it off the news? Why the fuck would they tell people they found a tactical nuke during a drug raid? Why would they do that? That shit's on the hush. Earlier this month, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov accused French president, and just to prove my point, do y'all remember the dude in Thailand who was trying to sell the nuclear material to the DEA guy? Let me pull that up real quick. Because sometimes people be forgetting that. I don't play nothing. Yeah, Japanese dude who was in Thailand. Listen, Myanmar, whatever. It's all the same to me. Give me a second. Not to be, a dickhead, but 1 second. I gotta reshare the screen. Man charged after attempt to sell nuclear. There we go. Bam, bam. So Japanese Yakuza boss, and I just need y'all to understand, like, this is the shit that be going on in my head. I'm just pulling up the article to show y'all, but I'm telling you, I be like having to go through like the index of information. But just think about this. So this is a Japanese Yakuza boss charged with attempting to sell nuclear materials from Myanmar. Okay, my point is this right here. What makes you think somebody who came straight up from Mexico, who's a shot caller, has never seen a warhead or something like that that's straight from Afghanistan or whatever, whatever, whatever? Like, dude, get fucking real. You know what I'm saying? The shit is here in the US. Probably more than likely in all 48 contingent states, these dudes probably have tactical nukes right on wherever there's serious cartel activity. Do they want to talk about that? No. Is it the actuality of probably what's really going on? Yes. The likes thereof that are close to what you would, like I said, a tactical nuke is a battlefield weapon. It's not meant to wipe out your whole city. But if these dudes got, you know, dozens of them all spread out different places, they can do some serious fucking damage. Now, let's just read this for a little second. Japanese Yakuza boss charged with attempting to sell nuclear materials from Myanmar. 1 second. Takashi Ibisawa poses with a rocket launcher during his meeting with the informant and two undercover Danish police officers at a warehouse in Copenhagen, in Denmark, February 3, 2021. Now, understand, they know this dude is running around with rocket launchers and all kinds of shit, y'all. Word. This is real life. This ain't no fake shit. That's a real rocket launcher. That shit will blow your whole house up. Nigga. A 60-year-old Japanese man believed by U.S. officials. Now understand, Abraham Raisi was how old, y'all? Like 63. There's a reason they're killing those dudes who are a certain age, because they're more willing, they're more likely to, in a more understandable terms, pull the trigger. A 60-year-old Japanese man, believed by U.S. officials to be a leader within the organized crime syndicate Yakuza, has been charged with conspiracy, with conspiring to traffic nuclear substances from Myanmar to other countries with the expectation that Iran would eventually use them for its weapon programs. Let's blow that shit up. Federal prosecutors said Ibisawa and three co-conspirators had allegedly been selling uranium and weapon-grade plutonium since early 2020, eventually exchanging them for military-grade weapons. Court documents unsealed in Manhattan Wednesday show the documents also state that Ibisawa and his co-conspirators provided samples of the nuclear material trafficked from Myanmar to Thailand to an undercover agent of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration when posing as a narcotics and weapons trafficker who claimed to have access to an Iranian general. So he's telling this dude, look, bro, whatever you can get, it doesn't matter. I know an Iranian general who will buy all this shit. Right on. He's probably going to use it to make bombs to blow up shit in America or to attack dudes over there in the Middle East. And dude is probably like, yeah, you know, not knowing like, we got you now, motherfucker. As alleged, the defendants in this case trafficked drugs, weapons, and nuclear materials. One second. Going so far as to offer uranium and weapons grade plutonium, fully expecting that Iran would use it for nuclear weapons, said administration and Milgram of the DEA administration, according to the statement Wednesday. Ibisawa and his Thai co-defendant, Shampap Singhasiri, 61, told you all these dudes are a certain age, were previously arrested and charged with international narcotics trafficking and firearms offenses in April 2022. They are the two defendants named in the superseding indictment. Ibisawa has since been held in Manhattan awaiting trial. Who is Takashi Ibisawa? Not much has been made public about Iwasawa's life, but the prosecutors describing him in court documents as a leader of the Yakuza organized crime syndicate, a transitional Japanese criminal network operating globally. Japanese local media, however, state that his ties to domestic organized crime have not been established, though he had been reportedly living between Thailand and Japan. Ibisawa's criminal activities have included large-scale narcotics and weapons trafficking, and his international criminal network expands through Asia, Europe, and the United States, among other places, the indictment read. The DEA has been investigating Ibisawa since around 2019, and the U.S. Attorney's Office previously said. He was arrested with Shinga Hasiri and one other Thai national in New York, April 4, 2022. In New York on April 4th, 2022, on accusations of trafficking heroin and methamphetamine, as well as brokering deals to acquire high-powered weapons like surface-to-air missiles for armed groups in Myanmar and Sri Lanka. Now, do anybody have any objections when I say that your local drug dealer is a federal agent? Any objections? Because I say that, being friendly, being kind. Where we at? According to the new indictment, Ibisawa and some phone and electronic communications told undercover DEA and a confidential source in 2020 that he had a large quantity of nuclear materials that he wished to sell, that he was seeking a buyer for uranium. He sent them photographs of pebbly substances with Geiger counters. In response to the repeated inquiries, the undercover agent, as a part of the investigation, agreed to a broker potential sale to another DEA source posing as an Iranian general. In August 2020, Ibsara reminded the undercover agent of his access to uranium and asked if they might buy direct from us. The agent replied that the Iranian general was very interested and then asked, how enriched is it? Above 5%? They don't need it for energy. Uh, Iranian government needs it for nuclear weapons. Ibisau replied, I think so, and I hope so. In September 2020, Ibizawa offered to sell 50 metric tons of uranium and thorium, a radioactive material, for 6.85 million. A subsequent offer, he told the undercover agent he could supply plutonium that would be even better and more powerful than uranium for Iran's use. As the undercover agent and Ibisawa talked about nuclear material purchases, they also talked about high power firearms. In May 2021, per the documents put forward in the indictment, Ibisawa asked the agent if they could purchase weapons like SAMs and AK-47 rifles on behalf of a leader of an armed group in Myanmar. It was then that the DEA was introduced to three of Ibisawa's co-conspirators, who were unidentified and aren't defendants in this case, but were also working on the weapons deal. In June 2021, Ibisawa circulated a note with the DEA agent and his associated, which referred to yellow cake, a type of uranium concentrate powder. Negotiations continued, and in February 2022, the agent asked two of Ibisawa's co-conspirators about a potential exchange of uranium for weapons from Iran, to which the co-conspirators said they had the same idea. They also added that they had samples of uranium and thorium to show the undercover agent. A week later, Ibisawa and his co-conspirators showed the samples in a hotel room in Phuket. After more negotiations, the samples were taken to an office in Bangkok. In May 2022, Thai authorities raided the office and retrieved the samples. Ibisawa faces several counts for multiple charges, including to commit international trafficking of nuclear materials. His court appointed lawyer, Evan L. Lipton, declined commenting on the New York Times and the trafficking, but said the trial will perceive that Ibisawa is not a leader of any sophisticated criminal syndicate. Didn't say that he didn't traffic materials, didn't say he wasn't trying to say shit. He's just saying, hey, bro, we're not a leader of a criminal syndicate. That's crazy. Now we're going to get back to this Putin, to my man's Putin, okay, acting a complete, utter, whew, out there. 1 second. Like I said, anything goes, right? This is part of anything going. Back to them nuclear drills, them tactical nukes. Anything goes, they say, right? At least that's what I'm saying, because that's what I believe I'm seeing. That's what I believe I'm witnessing. Without Putin accusing anybody of murdering Ebrahim Raisi, he's saying, you know what? Fuck it. Now let's go ahead and just read. Earlier this month, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov accused French President Emmanuel Macron and British representatives of provoking Russia's nuclear escalation. After UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron said during a trip to Kyiv that Ukraine could strike Russia with British weapons, while Macron has faulted the possibility of sending Western troops to fight in Ukraine. The Kremlin's nuclear test aims to ensure territorial integrity and sovereignty of the Russian state in response to provocative statements and threat of individual Western officials, the Russian Defense Ministry concluded. Okay, so these niggas can talk about attacking Russia straight up, and Russia can't be like, fuck it. I mean, this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. People want you to let them tell you, like a dude gonna tell me the other day as I was, going home. And I don't know what this old nigga was going through. He was like, man, I'm about to knock this nigga's teeth out. And I was like, I must have been like, before I knew what I was saying, I was like, man, I feel the same way. Right on. And I just looked at him like, and he just knew, like, you go ahead and, but he was a so-called elder, but he was most definitely a man that was that had gray hairs on his head, but that doesn't excuse you, and that doesn't mean you get to act like a sucker. You know what I'm talking about? Like, anyway, I gave him a pass. I don't put my hands on old people, but had he tried to do something to me, I would have had to fuck him up. Just that plain and simple. So I can totally understand what Russia's saying. They're like, look, yo, France is talking about sending troops over. You guys are talking about doing direct attacks on us with your weapons. Motherfucker, please. So Russia just has to take that, huh? They have to accept that uh Ukraine wanted to be a country in NATO, part of NATO, and they would have to accept that Ukraine would have been able to put tactical nukes that they could have got from any Western country with them on the border. There's a reason why Ukraine was made to give up their nukes. It's because they were unhinged back then and they're unhinged now. Now we're gonna read this last article, and I'm gonna just start breaking my foot off. Of course, I'm continuing as Demetrius. Nigga, what the fuck? Yeah, sure. Yeah, see? Okay. Okay, now let's go ahead and see if I can't get this whole. Nope. 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 We're not going through this. BS. I'll just show you this little part that I can show y'all real quick. I'm not going to get carried away with it. It's on some bullshit. Not subscribing. So I. Okay. Let's just blow this up. And this is from, maybe like 2 years ago. I think the last time they sat down together. But New Delhi. There we go. That's nice and legible. Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a detailed telephone conversation on Wednesday to boost strategic partnership. Now, this is a couple months ago. What is this? What, March? I want to say when this, yeah, March 21st. To boost strategic partnership, close on the heels of Russian leader's reelection for another 6-year term. That's it. Look. Stop right. I don't have to say that Modi and them or nobody plotted against nobody. I don't have to. I can just say that look at what happened. Abraham Raisi died. Modi's gonna, I don't want to get into like the whole Ukraine thing, but Modi's gonna help assuage and possibly bring in the brokering of, if there's going to be any kind of negotiations, India is going to play a major part of that. Major part. Like, they're going to play a major part. And China too. And I believe those two sides playing a major part in it is going to help mend the rift that's between them. And now we're looking at a real life BRICS. That's a real life problem. You see what I'm saying? Um, I wanted to talk about how the Russian troops. I'm gonna pull that up. Russian troops was in the same base as the American troops, right? Anything goes. Dun 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 dun. This was in Niger, or Niger, Niger. That's what they want to be called now. Niger. It's not Niger. It's Niger. Okay. Whatever. Let's go ahead and share the screen. Bang bang. All right. All right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Russian troops enter base. Oh, what the hell is this? Those motherfuckers ain't playing games with me now. What a life. What a time to be alive. Fuckers just get some cooperation from this internet, though. I don't know what's wrong with it. They must be mad because I'm about to prove another point to them. So when the article pulls up, it's going to be Russian troops. There we go. Russian troops enter base housing U.S. military in Niger. And this is a overage view, I guess. Um, I'm gonna blow some of this up. This looks like the actual airfield right here. Um, not sure if this whole thing here is them. If it is, you could argue that some of the stuff over here is like, where they actually have guys housed at. But if not, this is the general airfield. These are the hangars. These look like they could be some kind of small barracks, or this could be, some kind of area where people are housed. Anyway, still, wherever they were all at, I'm thinking they were inside of these type of areas, seeing each other. Like they were on the same, they were in the same places, you know, not giving no fucks. Russian military personnel have entered an airbase in Niger that is hosting U.S. troops, a senior U.S. defense official told Reuters. A move that follows a decision by Niger's junta to expel U.S. forces. The military officers ruling the West African nation have told the U.S. to withdraw its nearly 1,000 military personnel from the country, which until the coup last year had been a key partner for Washington's key fight against insurgents, which have killed thousands of people and displaced millions more. A senior U.S. defense official, speaking on the condition of anonymity, said Russian forces were not mingling with U.S. troops but were using a separate hangar at Airbase 101, which is next to Diori Hamani International Airport in Niamey's, Niger's capital. The move by Russia's military, which Reuters was the first to report, puts U.S. and Russia's troops in close proximity at a time when the nation's military and diplomatic rivalry is increasingly acrimonious over the conflict in Ukraine. It ain't got shit to do with us, though. That ain't got nothing to do with us. Listen, them thousand dudes, if they had felt froggy, they would have felt what the Ukrainians have been feeling. It would have been a good fight for a little bit, but that would have been it. You have to be really like The quality of US troops now compared to just 15, 20 years ago, like compared to when I was just in, it's not the same. These dudes are not built for that kind of shit. They're not built to be out there. They're not on no killer shit. They're just not. And that's fine to not be a killer. But if you in an army and you don't have a killing bone in your body, you in the wrong place. And a lot of them dudes that go to them countries don't have a killing bone in their body. They think they do, you know. Like that's how I know that, that like we dealing with some pussies now. We didn't even hear about no fist fights or nothing. Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, there would have been some that close to your so-called like one of your enemies, and nobody got into a dust up at the local watering hole. Stop it. They're all disciplined, Meech. They're not gonna break ranks and not listen to orders they were given by their chain of command. Whatever. Whatever. It also raises questions about the fate of U.S. installations in the country following a withdrawal. The situation is not great, but in short term manageable, the official said. Asked about the Reuters report, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin played down any risk to American troops or the chance of Russian troops might get close to U.S. military hardware. The Russians are in a separate compound and don't have access to U.S. forces or access to our equipment. That would be like the least of my worries. I'd be more worried about them punching dudes' fucking teeth out and treating them like punks. I'm always focused on the safety and protection of our troops, but right now I don't see a significant issue here in the terms of our force protection. The Nigerian and Russian embassies in Washington did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The U.S. and its allies have been forced to move troops out of a number of African countries following coups that brought power groups eager to distance themselves from Western governments. In addition, the impending departure from Niger, U.S. troops have also left Chad in recent days, while French forces have been kicked out of Mali and Burkina Faso. All right, just need y'all to understand. Now, people talking about they're just trading one colonizer for the other. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than rap, y'all. It's deeper than fucking rap. You need to get out of your shallow ass minds and start telling yourself what it really is. You have people who are hardcore, hardline Islamists. You have people who are hardcore, hardline jihadists. Right on? All versus one another. Like I said, the Crusades never ended. But since this is RIC, anything goes. Why do y'all think that Putin is just now telling? Listen, Putin did what he did after David Cameron had said that dumb shit. He was like he ready to, but then after Homeboy died in that helicopter crash, they're like, we're rerunning it, run it back. They can't let they can't let anyone think that if their leader has a sudden demise that there won't be some sort of consequence for that. The real reason why Israel did what they did to RIC is because if it looked like an act of violence, how you gonna stop? Right on. If you kill the head of state anywhere, that's an act of war. That's an open declaration of war. So, right, unless you're a person who lives in and is of that nation, right? Not somebody who patriated there or repatriated there or some shit like that. Nah, like actually of this nation. Then it's just an act of treason, which is still punishable by death in most nations. However, it changes the dynamics. But when you have what is, to me, more obvious than not that there are odious forces at work, there are heinous and evil forces at work, And when I say they're at work, I mean like they are actively right now doing their best that they can do to keep people out of a good position and to keep them into a bad position. So when people don't understand, you know, like, so for example, if you go and get an alpha dog from one kennel and you get another alpha dog from another kennel and you get another alpha dog from another kennel and you get another alpha dog from another kennel, and let's say you get all together 10 different alpha dogs, so-called alphas, right? You know what I mean? 10 of them. There may be a massive scrap to determine who the top dog is. But then again, there may be no scrap because the top dog of all those alpha dogs might make themselves known in ways where all those other dogs all understand and appreciate. But I'm saying if you got somebody who is, let's say they're from a, a, a kennel of dogs with a high level pedigree, right? Then you have another kennel of dogs who are supposed to be from dogs who have a high level pedigree. Did you hear the difference? One is actually high level pedigree. The other one is from dogs that were known to be high level pedigree. Your pedigree says that about you, but what we're looking at does not say that about you. And when you have people, these evil, wicked forces trying to tell you, and I'm talking about either side is evil. Neither side is good. There are no good guys in this battle. You follow what I'm saying? There are no good guys. There's just winners and losers. That's it. So when you have a dynamic where a certain individual is saying something and they're supposed to be of a certain ilk, and another individual is saying another thing and they're supposed to be of these people that are of a certain ilk, and you have a disagreement. Now, let's once again, I'm contending that both sides are already wrong. So it doesn't matter that one side comes from an actual pedigree that they can rely on, and the other side is resting on their laurels, so to speak. That does not matter. What does matter, though, is that you have people who put other folks in situations where, like Lloyd Austin said, the troops are secure, equipment secure. Would they tell you otherwise, though? Unless it was just recorded and undeniable. Of course not. They don't tell you about other incidents that take place every day. But because they were able to confiscate cell phones or all audio and video recording devices, and they were able to abscond the information and scrub it and redact it, whatever they needed to do, you know what I'm saying, to protect themselves, they done that. So let's just say, for example, there was a U.S. troop who roughed up a Russian soldier over there. They wouldn't tell you about that anyway. They wouldn't. And vice versa, they wouldn't tell you. Right. When the Ukraine and Russia thing first jumped off, there were special forces dudes and all kinds of guys going over there to help out the Ukrainians who were fighting against the Russians. Some of those dudes got killed. Right. Once again, you cannot try to have it both ways. Anything, okay, it's all good. Anything goes. You can't get mad if there's Russian or Eastern Bloc aligned people coming from south of the border who are here to help their causes. Now, and when I say there, I'm talking about Russians who are here to help their causes as opposed to helping the actual own from the nation they hail from. It's happening every day. You know, anything goes. When I said that Rick's friends, right? Rick had friends, right? And I talked about the cartel being one of their, like, like one of their closest allies right now. I'm gonna pull up this article if I can find it about, record numbers of people in Mexico are converting to Islam. Record. Not to say that there was never a Mexican Muslim. Sure, there's been plenty. Sure, there's been plenty. Converting to Islam. Yeah, they know exactly what I'm looking for. Why are Hispanics converting to Islam faster than any? Come on. Don't get mad now, YouTube. YouTube is trying to act like a being edge. I'm not even gonna read this whole article, but I'm gonna pull this shit up, man. You know, and I'm putting this link. I didn't put the links to all the other ones like I normally would put the links to them. I'll probably go back later and refind all my old tabs and link link it up in the video. Man, you're trying to niggas' patience. Copy. All right. And I can't make this stuff up. People think I'm just tripping. It's like, oh, dude, like there's a reason you're seeing what you're seeing. I've been trying to draw the correlations for years for people so that way they can understand what they're actually looking at when they see it, you know. Da-da-da-da. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Whew. There's a lot of drama going on right now. I just gotta let my there we go.
Or that we translate it and explain to them in their own language. Um,
like myself.
Allah.
Today, I completed my first week of my second Ramadan, and a few recent converts who are Latino like myself.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
When I first heard the call to Islam as a Chicano, I thought I was alone.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
I embraced a religion that was foreign to my culture.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
And I'm part of a culture that's foreign to many of my brothers and sisters in Islam.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
But 2 years into my journey, I'm learning that Latino and Latina Muslims like me are not as uncommon as I once thought.
Based on data, Latinos are the fastest growing ethnic group embracing Islam in America.
Jaime Mujahid Fletcher is a Colombian American who embraced Islam 21 years ago. When he began his journey, he also felt alone. But soon, his father also wanted to learn about the religion. The only problem, his father is a Spanish speaker, and Jaime had a hard time finding educational material that was written in Spanish.
So the more that we translated and explained to them in their own language, it became less foreign to them.
That effort grew into Islam in Spanish, an Islamic center based in Houston, Texas, that doesn't convert Latinos and Latinas, but provides educational information about the religion in Spanish. Despite their hands-off approach, Jaime says they've seen an explosion of Latino and Latina converts.
Rasul
Allah.
Allah. Felicitaciones. People just show up and they say, hey, we're coming here to embrace Islam.
I feel like I found like my answer.
Here in Colorado, Rudy Sanchez and Juana Serrano also heard and answered the call to Islam.
It just really started pulling at my heart.
They say their religion gave them peace.
It was kind of like a coincidence, you know, like I'm thirsty and then some guy with a water bottle was just like, hey, you want some water?
It gives me a lot of peace. It gives me a lot of freedom that I really didn't feel like I had.
But they both admit when they first converted, being Muslim felt isolating, especially when it came to breaking the news to their families.
I did feel pretty lonely. They weren't fully understanding of what I'm going through just because they're not going through that same thing.
My mom was definitely in shock. She's very devout Catholic, and she was supportive though.
But both they and Brother Jaime say Islam and Latino culture have a lot of similarities, which makes conversion easier.
Coming from, a Hispanic background, family is very important.
Respecting parents and respecting family members and all that. I think that's a huge part of Islam. And that's also a huge part of like our culture.
Looking deeper into Islam, all of a sudden you start finding out that, hey, this is the way, I was brought up. These are the values my family shared with me. So there's a lot of affinity.
Plus, they have their new brothers and sisters in faith to help guide them.
I actually joined a group, and it's Latina sisters.
Everybody's nice and kind. Everybody wants to know who I am. They don't see many Mexicans.
And while in Islam, there's no compulsion in religion, all three say that they're happy to see more Latinos embrace the message.
A lot more Mexicans are becoming Muslim, and I think that it's great.
We actually can keep our culture intact and be a better version of what it is that, it means to be a Latino.
Once you really take away all of those negative images that are being portrayed on media, you'll find that it's a whole world of peace.
And if you need any more anecdotal evidence about how many Latinos are converting to Islam, just this morning I stopped by the masjid and met a brother who had been converted just days ago. His name was Brother Luis and has a Mexican heritage. In Denver, Michael Aveta, covering Colorado First.